It is really great to be here and in person. So it's great to see everyone. And Joe, thanks for joining us today. Really excited to talk a little bit about how Bud Light is engaging in the Super Bowl, and just have a couple quick questions for you. So I'm excited. So just real quick, a little snippet on AdMix. We are really the gateway for brands to enter the metaverse. And I know everybody's probably wondering what that really means. So, we have a very simple process. We own over 100 properties right now in various meta worlds, if you will. We help brands navigate and identify where the best place to be is. And then we help them build and activate with that. And then we really create a frictionless environment for brands by mitigating the risk from having to go to a finance team and explain why they need to convert some of their marketing budget to cryptocurrency to go buy land in the metaverse, when you don't even know if that's going to be the place you want to be for a long time. And then we also provide an IO process that is, just simple, and all the brands and agencies already know how to work with that. So again, creating a frictionless environment from cryptocurrency. But enough about us. We're here to talk to Joe. So Joe, thanks so much. When we spoke the other day, you mentioned that Bud Light is really pushing to be an innovator, a pioneer. With the Super Bowl coming up this weekend, can you share a little bit about how you're going to be activating at the Super Bowl?
Yeah, for sure. So within Bud Light, we've got a portfolio of brands. And so we're talking innovation. I think one of the biggest innovations of the year within beer, and maybe in decades since light beer was created 40 years ago, we're launching Bud Light Next, which is a zero carb beer, 80 calories, 4% ABV. So really one of the first zero carb beers ever. I think our brewers were working on it for about 10 years before they finally cracked it. So something we're very, very, very excited about. It will be getting the Super Bowl commercial. It's released. Definitely encourage everyone to view it. It takes you through a lot of these new Gen Z buzzwords, as you start to say, right? So metaverse is in there. Esports and gaming is in there. We've got NFTs within the spot. So a lot of really great things speaking to the Gen Z consumer. But also, as we look, we're talking about activation. We just got back from SoFi. That's where Core Blue, Bud Light, as most of us know it, the biggest brand in the beer industry, is really going to be focused on activating. So really at the point of connection with the consumer at retail, at the stadium, through activations. We sponsor players, both teams in the game. So we'll still have a very holistic approach to how we're activating. And then, not to mention, we also have a Super Bowl spot with Guy Fieri for our new hard soda innovation. So a lot that we're doing within the portfolio of brands that we have. And that's just within Bud Light. I know you'll hear from Matt and Zania later today, and they'll be able to talk more holistically the AB portfolio.
Thanks so much, Joe. I appreciate that. With this program specifically, you talked about and touched on so many different aspects of that program. How will the consumers and the brand really, work? How will it work, this activation for consumers and brands?
Yeah, so for Bud Light Next in particular, so this past week we launched our first NFT within the Bud Light family. 22,000 NFTs. I think there might still be a few left. You can go grab them if you want. But with this comes a lot of really cool perks. So you can get vote on, things that we'll be doing for the brand. You can have exclusive opportunities for samples, for tasting, to events. Potentially, this is the gaming brand now. So, VIP experience at the League of Legends finals for the NFT owners. So we're really looking at these NFTs as a way to accumulate consumers, the true avid fan base, and then give them exclusive perks and cool things that they can have. As I mentioned, we're converting all of our assets. I think we're one of the biggest sponsors in esports and gaming. So that'll all be Bud Light Next moving forward. And we're looking at how we can get into the metaverse, even if it's small steps at first. I think it's really great for us to test and learn with this brand, really with the focus on the Gen Z consumer.
Fantastic. Yeah, testing and learning in the metaverse, if I could say anything, is really the important stuff to be taking with brands right now. It's such a new frontier and a new channel that a lot of the conversations we're having are exactly along that. How do I test and learn within that space? Because right now it's so nascent. I think one of the greatest things that we talked about is just for you personally is this opportunity to launch a new brand within such a heritage company like Anheuser-Busch InBev. And just kind of curious personally, like how has that been for you? What's that experience been like? What are the greatest takeaways you've experienced?
Yeah, I wish we were launching next Super Bowl. Just launching a new to world brand just takes so much, and every single person on a brand team, from the innovation, packaging, the brewing side, me and sports marketing, the comms team, everyone's really sprinting towards this goal of things that haven't been done yet. So it's really exciting. It's definitely a journey, but it's one, we wish we had a lot more time, but I think we've already started to get it out in the market. Consumers are loving it. We've got it in the hands of influencers, and everyone that has been tasting it has, I think, been really surprised with how great it's been. And that's just that we were all kind of holding our breath of like, we know what we think, and drinking the Kool-Aid, drinking the beer, so to speak. But once other people started drinking it, they enjoy it despite it having 0 carbs and 80 calories, right? It's got a lot of flavor, very sessionable. So we're very optimistic for how it's going to be. And really, the pride will come from the results, right? And I think now we're starting to see it. We're excited about it. So more to come. Hopefully next year, we're going to be talking about how it's got another Super Bowl spot, and it's just been tearing it in the market.
And again, personally, what's been the most fun thing about like launching this brand and this experience overall?
I think, it's history. Anheuser-Busch has been around since 1876. We've launched a lot of really big iconic brands, like Budweiser, Bud Light, Ultra, and all the other global brands we have. And just being able to know that, I was one of the few people that worked on this brand is a lot of satisfaction, and the work that goes into it. When Budweiser Light was launched 40 years ago, it's 40th anniversary this year. I don't think we ever would have expected it to become, the biggest beer brand in the industry, and that is Bud Light, right? And we're selling 20,000 Bud Lights a minute. So just the scale of such a big brand, and hopefully we're disrupting ourselves and we're innovating so that this next wave of consumers are going to be choosing Bud Light next, the same way they chose Budweiser Light, which became Bud Light.
Great. That's a great response. Thanks so much. You've got such a vast portfolio of brands under the Bud Light umbrella brand. How are you thinking about, the plans? I mean, we talked a little bit about this with the new brand. You want to mix it up. You don't want to do the same tried and true, but with all these different brands under the portfolio, all these brands in your portfolio, how have you changed things up a little bit as you've launched these new brands?
Yeah, it all starts with the consumer, right? And what we try and do within our brand family is make sure that we have a distinct swim lanes, that we're not just talking the same messages to everyone. Sports are very, very focused on Bud Light Core Blue. It's a 27 to 35 type age range. Older, maybe not as tech savvy, still right 27. I'm within that age group, right? So it's not like we don't know what we're doing, but it's much different than a 21 to 27 target for Bud Light next that is going to be owning the metaverse, NFTs, Bud Light Seltzers owning music. So it's all about having distinct swim lanes that we're able to connect to the consumers based on the insights that brought these brands to life, right? The insight that 0 in the way of possibility, 0 carb beer, that is going to be a Gen Z consumer, and that's who we're really trying to reach. It's going to have different activations, different swim lanes than a Bud Light, which is going to be older, more focused on sports, going to have a very optimistic tone to everything we're doing.
That's a great example of really taking such different opportunities with each brand to make sure that it's, I think as brands look to enter in these new channels, it's the authenticity that really matters, not only to the brand, but the consumer as well. So thanks for sharing. At the Super Bowl this year, Bud Light's got a portfolio of products. Talk to us a little bit about how you're going to be activating and that again, from an authenticity standpoint, how you're going to be activating around the Super Bowl that these are the port brands.
Yeah, a lot of what we're doing is from a comms standpoint, right? Super Bowl commercials, everyone knows how valuable that is. But I think, I've touched on seltzer and next, but what we're really looking at for Bud Light Blue is what happens after the game, because the occasion that Bud Light fits its role is it's all about celebration. It's about these optimistic, great occasions. So we're looking at what players are we going to have that we sponsor that are going to be in the parade drinking beer. We've sponsored a lot of players real time because we see them chug a Bud Light. It's like, let's go sign them. Let's go do something on social. And that's really what we're focused on, because Bud Light doesn't necessarily, with a brand with 99% awareness, right? You don't need just high reach, high inventory media. You need ways to connect with consumers on a really real level. And so what we're trying to do is find the right influencers, find the right partners, the right events, so that when Bud Light shows up, people are thinking, yes, I'm choosing a Bud Light because I'm choosing to have a good time. Whatever I'm doing today is going to be good because I'm choosing a Bud Light. And that, I think, when you've got the talent to really do it for you, authentic influencers. It really helps push us over the top, and we're really focused on the night after the game, and then that Tuesday or Wednesday when the parades are going to be happening.
And with, so many different teams and players that Bud Light participates with and activates with I think 27 teams and 30 players. What have been the two biggest challenges in how Bud Light will be activated across all of those different elements this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of challenges with being a beer brand. I sometimes think, the Gatorade guy's job is so much easier, right? They're on the sideline, the players are drinking it. It's easy to capture that. George Kittle's not drinking a Bud Light on the sideline. So it's like, how do you take these moments throughout the year, throughout the calendar, and think of what are the ways that a beer brand fits in? And that's what I think we've done a really good job. Players are still relatively new within our category. We've only been able to sponsor players for about 3 years. So what we're trying to do is not just sponsor the biggest name talent. We think who's a Bud Light guy, because that's ultimately who we want to be endorsing our products. So we look at like a Travis Kelce, and he's drinking on his own already on social media. It feels very natural for his audience base to then see them drinking Bud Light. And then on the team side, it's really how can we do initiatives that make sense to consumers. And a lot of it's social, so teams can help hype up e-commerce and delivery, get Bud Light delivered this weekend. We do Bud Light Celly of the Week every week, and then we've got a NFL Honors, an award that will be given out on Thursday night during the ceremony. So how can teams really amplify these initiatives to drive brand equity and give us an ownership proposition of celebratory occasions, all to this one holistic goal you put all together? It's millions and millions of impressions. It's tons of consumers that are now seeing Bud Light in the right occasion that we want for the brand. And then it's the players on top pushing, because we know that players have much stronger followings than individual teams.
And not anything we talked about earlier, but just curious, what player has been the most fun to work with?
I think probably George Kittle, and he's really taken the tight end position and tried to make it become much bigger. So they did tight end GU for the first time this summer, where he got every tight end in the league except Gronk. And Gronk's fun to work with too. But they all came to Nashville, and they drank a lot, they team built, they studied film. But like, how do we as a position elevate ourselves and speak to more consumers? So George was challenged all the tight ends there to get in a gigantic ice bath. I mean, up to here, it's branded Bud Light giant cooler, and they were in there. Whoever could be in there long enough, we gave donations to charity. They're just drinking, having fun. He's a really authentic Bud Light guy, as we like to say, and I think those are the type of people we like to partner with. And he evangelizes his teammates, like, I'm supposed to buy Bud Light, drink Bud Light, and that's really what we like to see.
Fantastic. That's a great story. Thanks for sharing that. I don't know how we're doing on time. 10 minutes. Great. Any questions real quickly? Just thought I'd pause real quick and see if anybody had any questions for Joe. If not, oh yeah, go right ahead.
I grabbed your microphone. All right. Again, it's not my rule, but I can do as I'm told. It's okay.
You mentioned you're kind of picking cultural segments specific to brands, like for the seltzers on music and next metaverse and other trends. And Bud Light is like an optimism. Where does gaming fit into that? Is it kind of a through line for all of it, or more specifically for a younger generation in Bud Light Next?
Yeah, great question. So moving forward, all gaming activation is going to be owned by Bud Light Next. So we're sponsors of League of Legends. You'll start seeing, I actually started seeing last weekend, Bud Light Next will now be in the loop there. There will still be a little bit legacy for Bud Light. We've got one of the biggest channels on Twitch. We've had some of the biggest live streams ever in gaming. So I think there's a lot of equity that we see, but there's this tremendous halo effect. We look at Tim the Tatman. He's done a ton with Bud Light. Last year, everything we did with Tim was sponsoring seltzer streams. He launched all these new flavors. On Monday, he launched Bud Light Next for us, and instantly Bud Light Next got trending #1 on Twitter. So it's really using the right people to help drive the awareness for these brands. And I think Bud Light Next, Zero in the Way of Possibilities, I think gaming's trying to shift to a healthier, balanced lifestyle. It fits very, very well with this young generation, that consumer target base that we have. So it'll be Next moving forward, but you'll see a little bit of the other portfolio brands, holistic brand family approach.
Joe, sort of segueing just a little bit off of what you just said, as you look to the future and new channels, where and you touched on it a little bit, but where does metaverse fit within the brand portfolio as you look to test and learn?
I think it's a tactic, for brands as big as ours, you have to make sure you're speaking to the consumers. And I mean, I've seen Zuck's prediction for where he thinks the metaverse is going to be. And if you think about it, it's going to be big, but it's not so big that you can abandon traditional media, retail point of connection, influencers. It's a tactic in this giant wheel of ways that you're reaching consumers, because ultimately you need to be where the consumers are. We want to be there first. And so yes, we will be in the metaverse, but there's a million other tactics within that. You can't put all of your eggs in your basket, because you have to speak to where consumers are today, not just where they're going to be 10 years from now.
Yeah, no, and I think that's a great point that I think a lot of, we're out there educating brands on the metaverse, what they should be doing, how they should be approaching it, how they should be activating against it. And one of the biggest challenges of understanding it is the difference between the centralized metaverse, which is Meta and Fortnite and Roblox and all those bigger brands that you've seen, but those are all really functioning as a revenue share for the corporations, versus the decentralized, where we really focus, and that is a more peer-to-peer experience. And it's about community building. It's about what we call the creator economy, where the creators are participating in the overall value that's being created within that world, as opposed to the corporations. And that seems, so there's I'll mention a couple of them that many people may or may not know about them, but there's Sandbox, there's Decentraland, Somnum Space, just to mention a few. And that's really where we see the growth in, within the next 5 to 10 years, where we expect a lot of brands to work within that. But, to your point, yeah, it is a tactic. It's a new channel. And I think that it's really important that you do test and learn, and that you figure out what's authentic to your brand, but also to the experience, because each one of these meta worlds is different. They bring a different community, a look and feel that's different. So, again, getting back to authenticity, that's really, really important within the metaverse. So,
yeah, and to your point about creators, I think, as brand marketers, one of the biggest challenges that we now have is that we do everything we can to control our brand and what we're putting out into the world. But creators are really doing as much as any brand manager is to define what a brand is. I mean, the reach of Tim the Tapman, for good or bad, he could totally tank or help build up our brands. So I think, like, within the metaverse, within all these different layers, the power of creators can't be underestimated. So no matter how you're using them, there is a huge impact that they can have on your brand, on culture in general. And as marketers, we have to be able to adapt and use them strategically in the right way.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a little bit of the Wild West right now in terms of what's going to work and what's not. So it's great that you've been able to leverage that. Again, getting back to that authenticity, not only for your brands, but also for the creators, because that's the community that you really want to influence, is who's bopping off of that, or who's really really connecting with that influencer. Before I've got another question or two, but I'll put it back out to the audience. Any other questions for Joe?
We got 5 minutes for the next session, so think of speak now. You got it.
There we go. We got one question.
All right. Really fast.
On that point about creator and how much they can influence public perception of the brand, or even just like equities around it, things that are associated with you. Are you doing anything to build a relationship with those creators where they have a kind of an intimate look at the brand, and do you have any safeguards or guardrails with talent that you're working with?
Yeah, I think, it's a good question, and you mentioned a couple good points. I think a big thing that we try and do is we look at it as a partnership that goes both ways. I'm not just paying you for a post and we're done. We want to have a relationship that you can reach out to me if you want to go to an event, right? And so there's this actual, we work together on a human level. And I think that helps when you try and just give talking points for what you want them to communicate. But there are always guardrails, especially in our industry, like no excessive drinking and things like that. But I think what the most powerful thing that we've used creators for is, before we unveil something publicly ourselves, let the creators launch it for us. So the same day we had 24 hours of streaming for launching Bud Light Next. So before it was even available at stores, we had 24 different influencers all trying the product for the first time, building hype, generating excitement. So I think it's really like using them to do things that they think are cool too. Like I get to try this a week before anyone else. That is a cool exclusive opportunity. And of course, we know how much influencers love having things that are exclusive to them. So it's really allowing them to get in behind the brand, be things before, make them feel ownership. And then I think it's just a general rule for influencer marketing. It's give them a brief set of talking points. I'm talking like 5, and then get out of their way. And the biggest mistakes marketers make is trying to tell them how to do their job. Sometimes it may scare you to relinquish the control, but they wouldn't have millions of followers and be doing what they're doing if they weren't good at it, right? So here's your 5 talking points. That's it. I'm out of your way. Go do it. Crush it. And they usually do, right? But that's what you just have to have trust in them. So establish that relationship over months, years, and then you can trust them to just do what you need for the brand.
And, I think one of the things that's so important that you touched on is the fact, we talk about authenticity, but again, you're reaching these consumers and you're activating within the metaverse in a way that's appropriate for, your brand portfolio, but also influencing it as well within the community. And that'll only grow as you learn what works and what doesn't. And I know we've talked a little bit about NFTs, but what's been the most interesting thing or challenge in working and launching, the program that you have?
I think
if not any.
Yeah, the knowledge base that all of us had to acquire pretty quickly to understand what's going on here, what our brand role could be. But right, it's one thing to just launch an NFT, but the strategy went into it is all about maintaining a long-term relationship. It's not just about making a quick buck. We will now always be able to communicate with you. You'll have a say in some of these things. You will have exclusive opportunities, access to events. So it's now, it's loyalty marketing in a way as much as it is monetizing that.
It is, and a lot of brands are using NFTs that way. And again, it's, I think what's just important to understand within the metaverse as a channel and as a tactic is that again, you can't just slap your brand up there and expect it to happen. What you touched on, and I think is so critical, is you're building a community within the space, right? You're giving them access, you're allowing them, unique advantages and being able to participate as part of that community with it, which is what's really going to be, driving success in the future. So if there's any last questions, I know we're at time, but if not, Joe, thank you so much. Appreciate you coming here. Joe's got a